So today I'm taking a video of removing and replacing the O-rings in this Hydroboost on my 2004 Cadillac Escalade ESV. I'm going to start it up so you can hear. You can't even hear the winding now, and it won't even turn if you'll notice, because all the fluids leaked out. Maybe that did enough to show you the leak from underneath here. It's leaking from under here, right where that Hydroboost meets the brake booster. And so there's a few O-rings in there that I'm going to replace, and I'm going to do it a little bit differently than people in the past do it. A lot of times people take off the whole brake booster assembly, removing the 4 bolts behind here, which is up under in here. And I'm not going to do that. I'm going to drop my phone. I'm going to do it by just removing these 2 bolts, one here and one here. Sliding this out of the way, and then removing these 5 bolts here, the star note bolts, if you can see that. With some ingenuity, and pull that out and then replace the O-rings. And I'll go through the process with you. A handy skill, brushless 12 volt extension with a long extension, and I'm going to take that off and go from there and move that out of the way. These bolts here are 3/8. You might want to get a 12-sided 3/8 meter. You might want to get a swivel something too, so you can get in there on some of those other angles if you don't want to take off other hoses and stuff. Okay, so this is the O-ring I just removed out of there. You just use a pick tool. I'm sure you don't need to see because I forgot to start recording. I'm just going to clean it out a little bit and then replace it with the appropriate size one. They give you 2 because there's different sizes. So I'll replace it with that appropriate size one. So there's my brake plunger. No pun intended. There's to keep my brake compressed a little bit, which actually pushes this out. So this pin slides in to those 2 holes right there on those pins. But the way it sits, when you try to put it in here, you want to make sure that that's pressed down and in there as well. That'll press out with fluid. So you want to make sure that doesn't pop out and you lose it. But anyway, so trying to get that in there and on there when the brake's all the way released is really difficult. So I did it like that, and it seemed to be a lot easier to keep that on those grooves. Now if you put it in without putting it on those grooves, your brake will just, every time you start the car, it'll just automatically go to the floor and your brakes will not release because it's acting like the brakes being applied from the Hydroboost. Take this off. It just pops off. I'm going to put that in there. Now that pin right here goes inside there and in that spring, which is also very difficult to get down into that little hole right there, down at the bottom at the tip of my finger. And putting it in afterward is much easier, and I'll show you what I'm doing there. So I make sure I put that little thing that we popped off this little groove here, put it in there first. Okay. I'm going to attempt to show you how you can see I've got that mainly started in that hole, that's starting to go into that hole. You want to make sure that that's still around that ring as you're getting it in there. Like I said, with the brake all the way released, it's very difficult. This way it's a lot easier. So to press, you don't have to press it, depress it all the way, the brake pedal, but a good halfway seems to be a really good fit for me. Now remember, we have our little ring down in there, you can see. And our spring in there. Now we're going to take this spring, we're going to send it through here. We're going to just feel around until we can feel it kind of going into the head of that circle groove. And I don't have enough pressure to push on it to get it to mount. So I'm just going to take my hammer and just tap it like that. And now, as you can see, it is pushed out. Now we're going to take this O-ring that came off of it, and it's supposed to sit right down in there. But before, I always have a hard time getting it to sit in there because it wasn't quite out enough. So I'm going to go press the brakes a little more even now. Get that pin to protrude out even more. Now I'll go ahead and slide it in there like that, because you want that O-ring to just slide right inside of that, and it'll catch right on that inner black ring right there. Now I'm gonna loosen it so we can get the Hydroboost back on it. Now it'll go into there and press back on the brake. So now we'll get this to be out of the way, which is always a pain in my butt. Now, see, I just kind of pushed it back in there. Now it pushed that ring out to where it's supposed to be. I'm gonna put this back in there. I'm just gonna push it ever so slightly, because I don't want to depress that too fast, because then it pushes the ring off the plunger. The O-ring that I pushed on there off the plunger. Now I lost one of those bolts under here when I was taking it off, so I gotta go find it. It's all back together. I didn't have to take off any brake lines. I didn't have to go underneath and take off the brake booster assembly altogether and the brake switch and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty easy.